and we'll finally talk about this here. This is going to make things like worse, right? Because I talked about the robots on my channel before, but no one saw the video. I might delete it and just re-upload it, see if people will see it this time. But yeah, humanoid robots. The most advanced humanoid robots in the entire world that we know of right now are from Boston Dynamics. Those things are insane. Like the way that the Boston Dynamic, the predecessor was already insane enough, humanoid robot, but now you have the Atlas, right? And now they're going to make the Atlas 2, right? The human body is the most advanced and is the most advanced mechanical machine that we have that's on Earth, right? The human body can do finite things and do big movements as well, right? It can do meticulous, detailed movements, but also, again, big, large movements. To create a robot that is based on the human body is the best thing that you could create because it can be a multitasker and a multi-master of different types of movements and interactions, just like the natural human body. But also, because it's a robot, on top of that, it can do two other things. It can do the humanoid movements better, faster, cleaner, more efficiently. And on top of all of that, they can do the movements that human beings cannot, right? So that's three things. Well, the reason I bring all of that up is because a company called The Foundation, just sounds like sci-fi villainy. All of this is sci-fi villainy. Literally a bunch of white men with too much money and too much time on their hands looking at all of the cautionary tales of science fiction and fantasy, putting in the villains and saying, yeah, I want to be that sci-fi villain. I want to be that cautionary tale. I want to do just that. I want to ignore all the warnings. This is a company called Foundation, and it was founded by a white male Marine named Mike LeBlanc, if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. That's what this picture is down here. And yeah, he's, if not the only company, he is one of the few American-based companies who has signed on to making humanoid robots for military purposes, to attach weapons and guns and ammunition, all that kinds, to basically create robotic super soldiers. The company that I mentioned earlier, Boston Dynamics, they were part of a slew of companies in America that signed that they were not going to do that for obvious fucking reasons. There's just no way this is going to end well. It just isn't. And I bring that up because I think that's important to keep in context with everything that we've talked about. White Christian supremacist apocalyptic psychos are running the federal government. We've talked about this for years. We've talked about this for years. Now they're all over in the White House, calling the Iran war the Jesus war. Like Pete Hegseth, remember he has crusade tattoos, believing that slaughtering non-white, non-Christian people will like somehow magically create the rapture, which is not in the Bible, by the way. None of this is in the Bible, but will somehow magically force Jesus to come back, because in some of their minds, and a bunch of generals across different military bases have said similar, that they view Jesus as some type of super white supremacist grand wizard. I'm not kidding. But this has been going on for decades, before I was even born. This goes back to the Heritage Foundation. This goes back to Ronald Reagan. This goes back to the founding of this country by white, Christian, male, colonized-minded freaks and weirdos who have no problem hurting women and children, especially if they are non-white, especially if they are not Christian. That includes Muslims. Again, this is the kind of technology that they are investing in. And again, looking at it from the other angle, you've got people like Peter Thiel who just want to create a white peasant world, right? Same thing with Curtis Yarvin. They want to be the masters of a white-only, a Eurocentric-only world. But all of the white people are underneath them in a peasant class, in a permanent peasant class. And that's what they want. You got to think about all of this in the context of this. This all has to be destroyed. It has to end, because it's getting fundamentally worse. It's getting even more existential, not just against people in the U.S., and in Palestine and in Sudan, but the entirety in Congo, before anything, Congo. But it's becoming an existential threat to everyone, everywhere, in the entire world. And a quick news rundown for you, because I wanted to put this in the last video, but the last video was getting way too long. The IDF collects sperm, right? The IDF, the white Jewish supremacist state of Israel, the Ashkenazi Jewish supremacist state of Israel. They have like special doctors that go out there and collect the sperm of killed of deceased IDF soldiers before it goes bad, so they can continue their genes. They want to increase. They want that's a part of the various programs in order to increase the the Jewish European descent population, as I've been talking about for years, as I have been fucking talking about for four or 5 years now, that this is not a Jewish supremacist state. This is specifically a white Jewish supremacist state. That's what this is. It's just insane. I can't. I don't believe the IDF is the first group to have that idea, or the first group to have the wealth to implement that. But that's what they've been doing. I'm sure in the few women that are out there in the IDF, I'm sure they have egg collecting. They're trying to scoop out eggs. That must be significantly harder, but I'm sure if they can't do it right now, they're working on the technology to do it. Again, predominantly funded by U.S. taxpayers. With the case of Iran and all of that stuff, Americans, you cannot use the excuse of, just following orders. No. Cannot use that excuse. Just can't do it. The fuck? Oh, a Marine. A white man, a Marine, a decorated Marine, was protesting the war of Iran. And he was right, because he was basically saying it was a rich man's war. It was an unjust attack on Iran, and that it was Israel, right? Right? This was a white man's war. This was Israel's war. And a congressman, or not a congressman, I think he was a senator, younger looking white guy. He looks like your typical white man who comes from a dynasty family, a political dynasty family. And if not, he looks like the kind of white man who was at least born into money. He was born into the upper classes. This senator attacked this Marine who was just practicing his First Amendment rights peacefully. This Marine, the Marine's hand got caught like in a door, like in the door corner or the door wedge, and this senator just kept assaulting him, and his hand broke. I'm not sure if it was his hand or his wrist, but his hand broke. And instead, and the officers are like, trying to calm the Marine down, and they're circling the Marine, trying to talk to him, trying to see if he's okay. He's quick-witted his entire time. He's obviously looking at them like they're idiots, like, of course I'm not okay. And while they're doing all that shit, they just let the senator who assaulted this Marine walk out with his posse, and all the citizens are just staring at this guy, obviously calling this senator a piece of shit. He shouldn't be a senator, as anyone with the right mind would. And he's, as people point out in the comments, more than likely he's being paid by Israel. But they just let his fucking ass leave. His fat, flat ass leave the building. What are the officers doing? I think the last bit of news is deleting the Epstein files. So they're deleting the Epstein files. There was that law that of the Epstein Transparency Act, and the Trump regime has not been following that at all. They have been breaking the law by not adhering to that. Well, no shit. They don't give a fuck about the Constitution or American constitutional rights. Of course, they're breaking the Epstein Transparency Act. Not just, again, in releasing some of the documents when they're supposed to release all of them, but of the few documents that they have released, they've been redacting the shit out of them. Well, more evidence has come out that they are deleting. They are attempting to delete 60,000 odd number of Epstein files. So that's your news. This is where we're at. This is where we're at.